to Millennial Focus Group. We're the Ava Cuties, and I'm Jamie.
And I'm Kimmy.
And today we're going to do a follow-up video to our writing basics, and we're going to talk about role-playing 101, specifically Dungeons and Dragons type roleplay between fictional characters, or role-playing on fictional writing sites, like creative writing between people online. So, we're going to discuss pretty much the do's and don'ts, expectations of role-playing, and go over 5 main points about things to do or not do when role-playing to be somebody who's fun to role-play with, to be somebody who's a successful writer, and to progress the story with your characters. Kimmy, would you like to start us off with our first point, playing your character correctly?
Okay, so what this means is you will have created a character to roleplay with first. Your character is going to have flaws, your character is going to have emotions, your character is going to have values, a morality system. Your character is going to do things a certain way. Your character is going to think a certain way. Now, that may not be how you think, but that's fine because it's a character you created. So what we mean by playing your character then is once the character starts interacting with other characters in the world or other objects or things or whatever it could be, even the conflict itself, stick to what your character would do. If your character is kind of a silent type and all of a sudden you make him him or her, whatever, give a speech in front of a lot of people, though he's like the quiet in the back type, that kind of offsets your character. It doesn't feel real then. You're what's the word?
Disassociated?
Disassociated then with that character because it's just something they wouldn't have done. It's not believable. So playing your character is, coming up with the character first and then kind of sticking to it.
Some examples of that would be in a Dungeons and Dragons quest, you have a great idea for how to progress the quest and solve the puzzle, but you're playing kind of an oaf who doesn't really understand like the complexities. He's just the guy who likes to drink, he's the guy who likes to party, he's the guy who likes to be rough and tumble. So having him come up with a really complicated strategic plan for unlocking this chest at the end of a long dungeon, probably not something that's going to happen for your character, so you're just going to have to sit there quietly and wait for the rest of your party to figure it out.
Yes. Now, in Dungeons & Dragons, though, when you're playing your character, it's okay out of character to speak with somebody else whose character would be able to figure it out, but in person they can't. That's okay. If you yourself are like, this is the answer, give it to the person that can. That also helps progress the story and helps with the role play. But your oaf is not some genius that can figure out an ancient old text to unlock, the door to the next part of the dungeon.
Yeah, if your wisdom stat is 9, yeah, you probably shouldn't let him solve all of the puzzles for your party. Even if you're the best at role-playing games. Well, you created that character with a wisdom of 9, so... Or if you're on a role-playing site, depending on the rules, you may earn points for doing certain actions. But if your character is a loving, peaceful person, then having them get in a fight or a spar just to earn points is not being true to that character.
Right, and if you did want your character to eventually do that, then have them slowly progress to that. Make it believable. Make small little conflicts on the way that keep driving them maybe to not like another character or not like another system that's happening. And so eventually that character's just going to break and it's believable then.
Basically, your character shouldn't change suddenly, just like that. Your character needs to have development naturally over time and through events that you're playing out with other people. So, yes, be true to your character and the one that you created, but also allow your character to develop organically and to change over time based on what's happening to them in the quest, on the site, in events, not just what you want them to become. It has to happen for your character. And your character might not end up anything like you expected them to end up. And that is the beauty of roleplay versus just writing fiction for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of brings us a little bit to like the second point, or one of our other points that we have, is like So your character is going to will grow and develop throughout what they're interacting with, but they need to like acknowledge that is happening around them, or like acknowledge what the other player has been doing.
Yes, you also need to interact with other people for your character to progress. So if you're saying that everything is happening off screen, it's not believable and it's not fun to roleplay with you in that case, because then we don't understand how your character became who they are today. So have your character interact with other characters very often, again, whether this is in a Dungeons & Dragons quest, in an online game, or on some sort of role-playing site. And when you're role-playing with another person, it is very polite, and I would say almost necessary, to acknowledge what the other person is doing. If you're not acknowledging them, then it's not as fun to roleplay with you, because you don't understand how this character is reacting to yours. And you would want to know that somebody was reading your writing that you were doing specifically for them. So you should acknowledge the character's actions and then react to that. How does your character feel about that? What does your character say to that? They don't always have to say something about every little thing that the other character is doing, but they could notice a majority of it, and it can affect how they feel and how they perceive their world.
Oh, yeah. A big part, too, is kind of like, so reacting to another character's example, a character might have said, I completely agree with you, but the character could have stated it in a kind of like, sarcastic way. Definitely, your character's going to react to that. Your character's going to know that it was sarcastic. How did that just make you feel? I totally agree. No, he doesn't. How does your character then react to that? And it's wonderful when others react to what you write, and then you just do it back. You react to how they are, and it makes good storytelling.
If you're not writing to acknowledge and play off of other people, then you shouldn't be on a role-playing site. You should be writing short fiction for yourself. So decide, are you the type of person who's willing to push yourself outside of your box and have your character interact organically with others? If not, then you probably shouldn't be putting yourself or your characters into these situations in the first place. So, speaking of interacting with other characters, you cannot control what the other characters do.
Or what is specifically done to them at all. That is something that we call God play or power play. Example being, correct or incorrectly, if Jamie and I were role-playing and I said, my character slapped Jamie across the face, her head turned to the side, she could feel the sharp sting on her face. I did not give her a single chance for her character to try to dodge it, or for her character to throw her hand up so that it doesn't happen, or let her describe how it felt. And that right there was an example of power play.
Right. So I need to be able to describe how my character reacts. You are allowed to tell your character's intentions, but not how it actually affected the other character. I think this is something that really depends on the two people who are role-playing. If you have a closer relationship with the other role player, not just your characters are close, but you two are close and you've established what is okay for the other person to say and what's not okay, then that's up to you. Many sites also have rules about this, and obviously in D&D you have checks that you have to make to be able to perform your actions. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of a built-in system to prevent God playing and power play as well. But it's kind of, a case-to-case basis. So, for example, somebody I roleplay with, I know and they've told me it's always okay for your character to touch my character is never going to pull away, that sort of thing. But I can't just have my character go up to a random person and touch them or kiss them or hit them. Obviously, their character is going to try to avoid that contact. So
right, the correct way I should have done this, instead of saying my character smacked her face, her head turned to the side, she could feel the sting, and I've done that, I should have said my character would try to attempt to smack her in the face, and then leave it. So the attempt is there. That is what my character's going to do, and guess what? Now it's her turn to react, to acknowledge and react. She needs to acknowledge that I just tried to hit her. I mean, that was the main point of it. But she'll react and respond.
Yes. and correctly and in a relevant way. Not I jump 20 feet out of the way because I have amazing abilities. No, I probably realistically would get hit and I'd be like, what the fuck?
Right,
Why'd you do that?
She didn't see it coming. It was just something I wanted to do.
Right, so your character can't always have a perfect, like, powerful response to getting attacked either. Just keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so when somebody attacks your character, that can make you feel very irritated and sometimes personally attacked, right, Kim?
I try not to, but sometimes you just get so wrapped up in your character that it will, and this happens basically to everybody, especially first-time role players or people that don't do it too often. You're going to get attached to your character and you're going to take out-of-character feelings in character. So like if, Jamie and I were role-playing, our D&D characters, and her D&D character cussed mine out, I would have to be like, that's just what he would say to her, and I have to react, but I can't be mad at, I physically can't be mad at Jamie for her character doing that. And that is really hard sometimes, especially when you're really into the character you're playing. You really feel for the character that you've written. It's become a part of you. So I can see how you can take out of character feelings into character, but let's try to keep that separate.
It is super, super important, vital even, to keep those feelings separate. So your in-character feelings, or IC feelings, are the feelings that your character has. They don't like this person's character. They don't like it when people are presumptuous. You may not care. Your out-of-character or OOC feelings may be that, oh, this role player has this super snobby character. It's hilarious. I love it. But my character would hate that person. So when my character tries to slap yours in the face because he's being a snob, you're not allowed to get mad at me. You are not allowed to have your character unnecessarily hate somebody else or talk shit about them or try to fight them just because you have an issue with that person. I've experienced this issue many times in Dungeons & Dragons and on a role-playing site where people could not keep their personal feelings separate and their characters started acting differently toward me and my characters their characters started acting differently toward mine as soon as their feelings toward me changed. And it was sudden, it was no reason, and it was very frustrating because then it made it difficult for me to roleplay. I don't need to talk to this person, but sometimes our characters have to interact if we're playing this game together, and it just doesn't make any sense to take things out of context, and it makes the game miserable for everybody, and it is very imperative that you do not do that with your characters.
Oh, very, very. And it's the opposite too. Just because one character does something to another does not mean that person out of character has that same feeling towards you out of character. I think it's very fun when my characters do not get along with other characters and they annoy them and they hate them, or they're trying to get something out of them. But I've had people tell me that, do you not like me? Your characters always are, blah 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 towards my characters. No, you just write the same characters and I write the same characters and they never get along. It's not that we can't get along out of character. So both ways, yes. Don't take it out on somebody in character, don't take it out on somebody out of character, no matter what happens. They're separate. This is not you. That's not you. This is you.
All right, and that leads us to our final point. When you're writing out a response to somebody, please tell us, what is your character doing? Do not just have a verbal response, not only dialogue. We need to physically understand what your character is doing with their body, where they're at, what they look like in response, facial expressions, whatever, so that our character can have a more detailed, more interesting response in return, right?
Oh, definitely. Your characters are in a world, and you can interact with that world as you're interacting with that character. It makes it more fun. I love it when characters move while they talk. I like to know that their hands were thrown up, you know, or they stood up quickly. So all of a sudden my character's not talking down to somebody. Now the half-orc is standing a foot taller than my elf. You know, my character's going to respond too. It's going to feel, you know, my character's going to feel a little small now compared to him. And I'm going to change or react to it differently than if he was talking down to somebody. So by having that visual, that moment of like a picture to also respond to, a picture's worth 1,000 words, it actually really helps progress the story. It really makes the interaction interesting. Way more interesting than just sitting at a table having a conversation pan-faced.
It also makes better, more mature writing. Mm-hmm. Remember, our characters are not allowed to god play, so if you're not telling us what your character is doing, it's going to become very stale and very boring very fast.
Yeah, I won't know what to do with my character because I don't know where your character is even if you especially when they don't tell me how far away they are. You know, I like to know that my character pulled up a chair and sat down next to me. So I know I'm this close. So when my character's ready to interact, I know what my character can do because I'm this close. Whether, you know, the character stood in the doorway 10 feet away from my table, I know my character's going to be shouting and maybe making brighter visuals or like facial expressions and stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about.
This is one that very personally frustrates her.
As a dungeon master, you basically roleplay with everybody. During the game and out of the game, I also allow small, you know, offside stuff happen to help develop the story or characters. And yes, when your character just talks to the ones that I've created, and I give them visuals, I'm like, this is a funny guy. This guy's jumping off the table. This guy just tried to steal your map from your hand, you know, stuff like that. And they just, hey, don't do that.
Oh, well, I'm not going to listen to you because
I'm going to run away with your map. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. So, this episode is not just about the do's and don'ts of role-playing. There are also some things to expect. Here's what to expect while role-playing. I'm going to list off a couple, and Kim, if you have any others, feel free to add them. Something to expect. 1, you may encounter some very awkward characters and role-players when you are doing any kind of role-playing. They may be a little socially underdeveloped, and that's okay. They may put you in awkward situations that feel unrealistic. You have to be prepared to respond to any role player, no matter the situation. Remember, always just do what your character would do. If somebody does something very awkward, have an intense response. That is not okay. That might kind of be a clue to the role player as well. That was really out of place and not okay. Or communicate about that. Don't just stop role-playing with somebody, because then they can't get better at role-playing either. But make sure that the communication is always there, or you're always having your character react. If I'm role-playing and I have a character try to glomp my character, super awkward, super cringy, my character does not like physical contact from people that he does not know, so he's going to try to punch your character in the face. Sorry, not every character is going to be your friend. You might as well learn that now. But please don't just stop role-playing with people, because that makes them feel very self-conscious and very sad, and you should communicate, hey, I don't know if your character suddenly bursting into flames is relevant to the story and or possible in this world, so would you like to edit your post so that we can try to continue this interaction? Just little simple communication like that. Keep the door open. Another thing to expect is, again, I know I said this earlier, but your character may not become who you always envisioned them becoming. If you're open to having your character develop organically, then your character might become evil, or your character might actually become a wiser person than you ever intended because they had some very good role models in their life. So keep your mind open to your character changing. And another thing to expect, some people are going to write a little bit and some people are going to write a lot. Or some people are going to have their characters talk and interact with yours only a little bit, and some people are going to go on and on and on. You should not feel pressured to respond with an equal amount of text or reaction. That's called mirror posting. If somebody writes 7 paragraphs, then you do not have to write 7 paragraphs in response, because you may not have enough motivation to do that, and it will make you feel pressured, and then it's not fun anymore. So just always make sure that you are writing the amount that feels right for you and your character, and that you're always having fun with it.
Definitely.
Any other expectations for role players?
You're not going to like every role player that you come across, and you don't have to feel pressured or forced to role play with them. True. Now, she did say, if you're playing on a site that's a game, your character is going to have to interact with maybe some other characters that you necessarily don't like the role player. That's okay. Get through it. It needs to happen. But don't expect to like every player, and don't expect every player to like you. There are some writing styles that people don't like, and so they don't want to RP with you, and that's fine. There's people that I've RP'd with for D&D that I don't necessarily like to RP with, but because I'm the dungeon master, I'll do it. And I try to make it as fun as possible, and also try to be as nice as possible then with the people that I'm RPing with. And it's not necessarily I don't like them. Of course, they're all my friends. I love them. I just don't like the way they write, or I don't like the way they RP. But that's just a big thing to expect, is not everybody you're gonna like.
Now, I know we've gone over a lot of rules and a lot of do this, don't do this, and make sure that you're sticking to this. But at the end of it, roleplay is a game, and it's supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to be creative and help you become a better writer. So, yes, stick to the rules, but when the situation is right, feel free to bend the rules a little bit. And always make sure that you're having fun. If people are a stickler to the rules to the point where you're not allowed to be creative anymore, then that might not be the right situation for you to be in. Always try to have fun, and in the end, always try to be positive for the people that you're interacting with.
Definitely. That was a good way to sum all that up. RP, guys, it's actually really fun.
And anyone can do it.
Anyone. And I know a lot of people that never thought they would like it and are still RPing to today.
Yep, I have had that similar situation. So give it a try. Have your characters interact with others. It can be a great way to pre-write or brainstorm if you're having trouble coming up with story ideas for this short story that you really want to write, or a novel that you really want to write. Or maybe you just want something fun to do in your free time. Strongly encourage you to go for it. If you would like any ideas for role-playing prompts, you can message Kimmy and I, and you can get a hold of us several ways. You can find us on Facebook at Millennial Focus Group, or search for MFG Podcast on Podbean and iTunes, and give us a listen, give us some feedback. You can comment on our Instagram, correct? Follow us on Instagram at MFG Podcast. You can tweet us at Avocado Toasters, right?
Yes.
Awesome. And you can leave comments on our YouTube page. We are just under Millennial Focus Group. Like everything else, we like to be consistent. So, are there any other ways that our followers can reach us, or our listeners can reach us, Kim?
So, be on the lookout. I am starting the MFG Snapchat. And Jamie knows how much I love to Snapchat, so it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of extra content on there, some fun little surprises behind the scenes, and things like that. Also, videos of cute cats and dogs, so...
Yes, I have an abundance of cute cats and dogs.
Yes. So I will let all of you millennials know soon when I have that up. I'm still working on it, getting it all ready to go, so it should be here in the next couple weeks or so.
Awesome. Please let us know if you've enjoyed our back-to-back writing specials, and let us know if they've been helpful to you, because if these are helpful, then we'll do more videos of this style in the future. For now, that's all. We'll see you next time. Bye!